Hey, hello everybody. Uh, Hope we're gonna see somebody joining my live show. Today we're celebrating 5,000 subscribers on my channel. Oh, we got first person. Hello, how's it going? Let's see, super chat. All right, okay, figure it out. All right. So, anyways, we're gonna wait till some people join us. I got about an hour. Then I gotta go work in the garden. Then I have some dinner going on. Let's see if I can get a little bit more official. So hi guys, thanks for joining. We got already 3 people here, and if you have any questions, please post it. Oh, we got 11. I apologize. I got it's first time in a long time I'm doing it back off the computer. I hope you can hear me. I got the little sound device here, so we can have a better sound. There we go. So, anyways. Thank you everyone for supporting my channel. 5,000 subscribers. It's very exciting. Okay, looks like sound is good. Good, thank you. All this technology is freaking me out a little bit. So I want to answer a couple of questions that people posted. Somebody just recently asked, why do I live in the United States? Which is kind of interesting question. I came first time in 1995 to America. I work an exchange program, and in 1998, when I came for the fourth time, I met my future wife on a blind date, and that's how I ended up living in America. So we have a question: when did you first realize the Soviet Union was going to collapse? Well, see, I was 20 in 1991. I guess I was like 89. That's when, at least in Ukraine, there was quite a bit of a national movement going on. And actually, I got kind of caught in it too, that there'll be a great idea if Ukraine will be independent. And at that time, we didn't have a lot, usually Soviet government and KGB was pretty strict going after people who do any national kind of movements. One of our most prominent Ukrainian leader, Chernobyl, he spent a lot of time in jail in 60s and 70s, and then he became deputy. He got elected into Soviet Ukrainian Senate, so it was kind of quite a bit loose, the whole system. So that's probably like 89, 90s when you kind of start figuring out there's something's going on. Then, of course, I'm trying to remember what year we had a coup when the Soviet kind of like traditional hardcore leaders tried to overthrow Gorbachev, and it failed. I think it was in 90. Like, you could tell that the whole upper system there was in trouble. So that's probably, I mean, you didn't think it's possible because, I spent all my life in Soviet Union, but it was kind of getting wobbly. And then I remember around 1990, I was a witnessing right on the main street in Krishchatik. They were trying to raise the national flag of Ukraine, which is top is blue and bottom is yellow. And yeah, there was a cops pushing away. It was 5 actually managed to get the flag up. That they took it down. And like when I visit Ukraine and I walk by that building, it's like a main office of Kiev managers, and it's like I see that flag. I'm like, my goodness, I remember I was fighting for that flag in 1990. Now it's here, and no one has a problem with it. All right. So next question: what do you think about situation in Yalta? I guess it's Yalta. It was my favorite place of holiday. I'm not sure what's going on in Yalta, honestly. I know that it's Yalta. I think is it Crimea, right? Well, they started having problems. The people actually in Crimea, there's starting having a flavor of being a part of Russia, and I think there's some issues now. The locals are actually going up in the streets to protest about changes and other things happening in Crimea. Question from Indonesia: what was the police like in the USSR? It's effective or incompetent, clean or corrupt? Well, first of all, we didn't call them police; we called them militia. And since I wasn't a criminal, so I don't know how effective they were. But since we had no easy access to guns, I think most problems that the police in Soviet Union had to deal with was just drunks and you know people beating their wives or something like that. Was nothing seriously like criminal activities like mafia style. Later, I think middle of 80s in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, they had like a big scheme going on with the cotton production, but that was way above like a police level. That was we had a special department called OBHSS, which is a department for like criminal investigation of corruption among officials, and that's what they were searching for, people like factory managers that stealing stuff like that. But on militia level, most of it was dealing with drunks. Wasn't like we didn't have like robberies with guns and stuff, or no one was robbing banks because people just didn't have weapons. And so I think they had pretty decent work. All right. So next question: when did you lose hope in communism? Or you still believe in communism? Well, communism is a great idea. It's ideal system for ideal people, but unfortunately, there's no ideal people. That's why it's not possible to achieve. I mean, some people, like my mother, she'll be ideal to be a member of communist society because, like for example, we had to pay for tickets right in the bus back in Kiev, and but it was no one was checking your tickets. Like you can walk in the bus, step off the bus, but she was always buying the tickets and punching it. I have a video about it, how you do it, and I mean, we kind of were talking about it. It sounded like almost science fiction that hey, there'll be stores and you just go take what you need and you just work and you don't get paid because you don't need for money. So I don't know if I ever was mentally ready, but if you look at the history of any country that tried socialist system, not even communist socialist system, it's failed. So I personally, I mean, you got to have like work in people's brains and program them to. Otherwise, they don't want to work for free, but they want everything for free, and this is kind of a controversy you can solve. All right, next question: how did young people spend their time in the USSR? Was there some kind of clubs, or more like house parties? Well, there was not really many clubs. We had some they called Club Culture, like a culture club. So maybe there'll be some concert going on, but of course it's always government controlled. There was a lot of so-called dance areas in the park. There'll be black top area, and that's where the young people gather to dance for dancing. So there'll be some kind of band playing music, or they just playing records, and that's what young people hang out and they invite each other. And that's how my parents actually met. And a lot of it was like if parents are not home, then maybe people will gather in somebody's apartment and have just a party, alcohol and food. And of course, we celebrate birthdays that way. You just invite people to your house, and then you have food and drinks, and people eat, drink, and maybe do some dancing. So it was quite basic. Then, of course, you have movies. That's when you take your girlfriend for a date. It's going to movies. Next question is funny. Can you sing a Soviet anthem? Yes, I can. It's permanently engraved in my brain. I'm a horrible singer, but yes, Союз нерушимый, республик свободных. It's like I even don't think about it. It's forever in there. It's they played anthem every morning at 6 a.m. and every night at midnight, and any other time, every time like our hockey team wins. So yeah, those words are forever in my head. But I'm a horrible singer. All right, next question. So yeah, the Crimea said, I'm not sure what's exactly going on in Yalta, but there's a lot of money coming in from Russia right now to Crimea, and a lot of the attitudes, which in Russia, if you have connections, that's what when you're successful. So the people just come in and they take over local companies, local businesses. So I think I just saw a video this morning in Sevastopol, which is what the big Russian Navy base. They just shut down some biggest shopping center, and people went protesting because they find the reason to shut you down, make you bankrupt, that somebody takes it over for free from Moscow and they open the business again. All right, we got 33 viewers. Thank you very much for joining, guys. All right, next question. Thanks for your content. What was it like to be a dissident in the USSR, covertly publicly? Why wasn't author of Gulag Archipelago in prison for his book? He actually was in prison for his book. He was in prison, that's what he wrote. He's talking about Solzhenitsyn. He wrote his book based on his experience in the Gulag, which is the system of labor camps in Far East and in Siberia. Sakharov, the famous nuclear scientist, he got in trouble for being a dissident. So if they catch you publicly criticizing the Soviet Union, you're definitely getting arrested and sent to prison, or like they call it, Silka, which is like you send somebody to faraway places for a long time. So yeah, they went hard after anybody who was outspoken critic, and of course they were searching for anyone who was doing something cowardly. Like in Ukraine, I said there was quite a few nationalists that was fighting for independence of Ukraine, like Chernobyl and many others. A lot of like different poets and people who write books, they got in trouble for writing stuff that wasn't approved by Communist Party. So that was pretty ugly. Then, I mean, it was not as bad as during Stalin, because that time you just get shot most of the time. For your 10,000 subscribers special, you should do the right values test. Well, I'm not sure what you mean about the right values test, but definitely we can try. Channel is growing slowly but steady, about 200 subscribers per month being added. So sooner or later we're gonna get to 10,000. It'll be to do about 5 years. We'll get there. All right. Have you ever been to other Soviet republics during the Soviet Union? Yes, actually. Unfortunately, and that's my own fault. My mother could buy pretty inexpensive so-called putyovka, like a traveling packages. They were selling those pretty cheap if you're a member of labor union. But I was just interested to go in the summer in the village and hang out with my friends and do fishing. So I'm really not happy about it, but I didn't travel much. I went once to Latvia. It was 1987, I think. We went to Riga and stayed there. It was like exchange program somewhat. So those kids from local school went to our school, and we stayed in the school in their like gym. They had a cot set up, and then we toured the Riga and also Jurmala. So that was great. In the same time, those guys from Latvia stayed in our school and did the same thing. Then my mom convinced me to go to Baku. That was also around 1989. So I was around, not 89, my bad. I finished school in 88. So I was about 14. So 85, 86, 87, because I finished school in 88. We went to Baku, Azerbaijan. That was cool, but also scary because the local guys were kind of hardcore hitting after our girls. So we actually were hiding in the hotel because there was just like flies on the honey. It was impossible to walk on the street because there were just like a horny dudes that see pretty white girls, and because Azerbaijanis, they look darker, so they actually called us white people and we called them black people. So I also went to St. Petersburg, which at that time was called Leningrad, and that was because of Chernobyl events. I already talked about that in my previous one of my videos. I stayed in Leningrad for a month. Then I was in Moscow, I was in Belarus a little bit, and that's pretty much it. I really feel bad that I never went to Baikal Lake Baikal. That was I could do it, but I wasn't interested. Now I was like, I'm not happy about it. Also, I went down south. It's still Ukraine, but we stayed at the Black Sea in Yevpatoria once. And one time we went to Azov Sea, but my family just usually Soviet people. That's their way they spend vacation. Cool way to spend vacation. Go down south, but we never liked it. We went north, like Americans do. They go north for summer vacation, and we stayed in the village of my grandparents. Next question: blue jeans in the USSR. How did people get them? Are you talking about Levi's? Well, people were smuggling jeans. Like Levi's, people were willing to pay like 3 monthly salaries. So if you make $2,000 a month in the United States, people were paying $6,000 for a pair of Levi's. That was like so cool. I mean, I never could even touch them. But people who worked overseas, like sailors and others, that was the way they were making extra money. They would purchase electronics and Levi's jeans, bring them to Soviet Union, and sell them for, yeah, they were making a killing. It's one of the people who made a lot of money. It's international sailors. What is your favorite national anthem? I don't really know like favorites. I'm not familiar with many besides United States, Ukrainian, and Soviet. But I think Soviet anthem is like really powerful. Like it's way more powerful than American one. Um, Somebody asking, why do you look so tired? I don't know if I look tired. I woke up not long ago. We just had a really heavy breakfast, so I'm a little bit sleepy. But I guess I'm just getting old, and I didn't have a chance to shave. Uh, Next question: what is your favorite state in USA? I really like Michigan. Honestly, I would like to go in more north, like UP, but there's no really good jobs out there. Um, in the summer, it's already too hot for me even here, and I like winters yet. So I'd say Michigan is a nice state to live. If I get tired of winter, maybe I'll consider Tennessee. How patriotic was the average Soviet citizen? Not really. I didn't see anyone who was super patriotic. I think one of my friends, his dad was communist, and he was kind of real communist. Otherwise, I think people got tired around 80s about all the patriotism. The only patriotic was about sports. You know, if we play Canada in hockey, ice hockey, then everyone is really intense. But otherwise, I won't say like around 80s and early 90s we were super patriotic. But of course, there was a lot of propaganda on TV and newspaper blaming the West for all the troubles, like they do in Russia right now. Favorite Soviet film director? I'm really horrible with names. I honestly I might know some actors, but I don't know any directors. Like I never cared about titles who made the movie. Like I like the movie or I don't like the movie, and I really never paid attention. So I can't tell you the name of pretty much Ryazanov, but I won't say he's my favorite. That's just maybe the only person I remember the name. So sorry, I cannot recall. During the Afghanistan war, what was the public opinion back in the USSR about conflict? Hey, we got first. Uh, Somebody used super chat and donated $5. Well, thank you very much for your support. I appreciate it. Very nice of you. I don't see any question from you, but yeah, if you have a question, please place it. So, uh, public opinion, we never knew public opinion because the war started '79, so there was a hardcore under government control. We just knew there's something going on, and I think it's only after Gorbachev came to power and he kind of introduced glasnost. Uh, Oliver, just go that way. Sorry, my kids came back from fishing. Uh, so anyway, so then we started hearing, but yeah, when the dead kids coming in the metal coffins to the towns, sooner or later there will be rumors going around. So we didn't know a lot about what was going on there. Only by the end of the war, when Gorbachev allowed some information to come out, we realized how bad it was. Ain't no party like a communist party. Yeah, unfortunately, if you look at the modern people in Russia management, Putin and his cronies, they're all the generation of the last communists, and that just tells you what kind of communists they were. It was pretty much just a bureaucratic check mark because you couldn't become a manager of factory of any. You couldn't advance uh, high enough on the ladder if you're not communist. So it was like, well, we would like you to be a manager, but you're not communist. So why don't you apply to be a communist and be a member of Communist Party? Then you can move on. And I remember, like, when I was going into college in 1989, they actually, what happened is I needed to be a Komsomol member to get into college. So I became a Komsomol member in 1988 just for that reason. Actually, the one they asked me, because you have like a commission of 5 people, but 4 were my friends and 1 was the main person, the girl. So when she asked me, why do you want to become a Komsomol member? So instead of giving her a bunch of BS, I just honestly told her, like, well, I need to go to college. They don't accept non-Komsomol members, because at that time I really didn't care about all this ideology. And she didn't like that answer, but 4 friends voted yes. She voted no. That's how I became a Komsomol member. So I thought it was pretty funny. Your mother is very brave and strong woman. Thank you for your stories. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, she's a go-getter. And I said she was extremely bored being in Kiev, because you retired, and what they pay you is a pension, like $70-80 a month. And the prices in Ukraine is very close to what in America for groceries. So like, you can't do much with that money besides just saving them or trying to buy something so you can afford to live. So yeah, she really enjoys being in the village. I mean, it's hard life, but she likes to be busy. Please play game Crisis in Kremlin for your channel. Is that like a board game? Because I know some guys, my coworkers, that bought some kind of game. There was something about Kremlin as a Politburo, and you're playing checks. But I need to check it out. If you can send me a link, Mr. Random 1208, because I'm not sure what is that game, but I can check it out definitely. Let's see. I've seen Sputnik brand razor blades and Soviet shaving cream that I can't read. That's funny. The interesting thing about all the blades, they brought them from Germany when they, on the end of World War II, Soviet Union borrowed a lot of factories from Germany, and they still like those shaving blades in St. Petersburg. I think it's called Neva, maybe Sputnik too. They still use German technology from 30s to making those shaving blades. Okay, now we need to move back. I'm lost. Okay. Somebody posted, Azerbaijanis need to chill. Yeah, dude, I was literally scared because, I mean, that would be just like they just elbowing in our crowd and it's like just start hitting on the girl, like, hey, how's it going? Do you think I'm pretty? You want to go out? I have money. It was just like they were waiting by the lobby in a hotel. Like, we actually were freaking out. And then another thing, what happened, we went to, oh shoot, I forgot the name of town in Azerbaijan, but basically 6 months later, there was a big trouble there between Armenians and Azerbaijanis. There was actually some people died in this oh my God, forgot the name, but we went there because it's a really cool, uh, ancient, like I don't want to say castle, like a monastery, when they had a natural gas coming out of the ground. So they set fires and they prayed to the fires. So there was this fire praying monastery, and people were acting like the youth was acting really weird. Like wherever we walk, they kind of like follow us, almost like waiting for something, brawl to start and kick our butts. Um, I don't forget the name of that town, but anyways, that was the first time when we have the serious problems, like people killing other people in Soviet Union. That's what happened in Sumgait. Here you go. That's called Sumgait. Um, did you ever get taught about Yugoslavia, Soviet relations, Yugoslavia and Soviet system? No, not really. Yugoslavia was kind of undercover. Like, they were kind of good guys, but not really, because they didn't follow our, um, path. So after Tito split with Stalin, there wasn't mentioned much about them. Like, they were better than capitalistic countries, but not good either, because they didn't follow our lead. So they didn't teach much about it. Like I found a lot of about Yugoslavia when I came to America, like about Yugo cars, and then I discovered there's a lot of furniture was sold in the 80s from Yugoslavia, United States. So Yugoslavia was like China for furniture in 1980s. A lot of people like to go north in the summer in Michigan. Michigan is people. Yeah, I noticed there's a lot of campers heading up north, and I understand it's way too hot pretty much everywhere in the United States, so people want to get some nice weather. What could you get for 15 kopecks in USSR? Well, you can buy 15 boxes of little packages of matches because it was a 1 cent, 1 kopek. You can ride the bus 5 times or subway, and also we had as like the call video games, but the kind of like the video games type of machines. It was 15 kopecks. It was really expensive, and that's what I can think of. And you can buy half a loaf of some bread, so you can buy quite a bit of things. For 45 kopecks, you can buy a bottle of Pepsi, uh, 0.33. Please explain about schoolgirls who wear French-made type uniforms. Was that a Soviet thing or a Russian Ukrainian thing? Super cute. Yeah, that was a standard uniform. Usually it was brown color, skirt and a top, and then it was also like a holiday add-on. So they'll have these white things on the top that look like French made. Yeah, but that was their thing. I was too young to kind of get that connection. And like several girls, like since you weren't allowed to wear anything, like jeans or anything else, so they will wear same skirt year after year. And of course, as legs get longer, skirts stay the same length. That we had a couple of girls in the 10th grade that like, are you still wearing the same skirt you started wearing the 4th grade because it's really short. Your grandmother is the brave one too, going to free your grandpa like a boss. Yeah, she was a interesting character. First of all, like she was uneducated person. Like she, even in Soviet Union, like I've discovered to my dismay in early 80s when first time she came to stay with us in the winter. Uh, I think like 81 or something. This first year they decided that it's too hard to spend the winter in the village, so we brought them up to our apartment. And grandma asked me which is a milk, which is a bread store, and I was like, "Well, it says on the label." And she's like, "I can't read." So she knew by the shape of the letters what is what. But yeah, she never could write or read. So, but yeah, she traveled and saved my grandpa, her husband. That was, and she survived through the German occupation and managed not to get herself in trouble with Germans like some other women did in the village. You want to be a Youper? As I said, I like to live there, but I mean, general area of like how our people lifestyle, I'm not really a big fan of because I'm not into hunting or fishing big time, but I like it because it's white birch and it looks like my village. All right, so we're moving again along. Let's see. Got 41 people. Thank you for joining. And as Comrade Random 1208 is on the bottom, there's a little dollar sign. If you feel generous today, if you want to support my channel, you can always donate some money, and then your question will pop up as a priority, and I'll be more than happy to answer. Okay, next question. What do you think of the current tensions between Russia and Ukraine? Well, there's really not tensions. There's actually a war going on. And now it was just announced that they confirmed there was a Russian military that shot down the Malaysian airplane. So that's really ugly. I'm not sure what Putin is trying to achieve, but he started the mess in the eastern Ukraine to kind of like so Ukraine will forget about Crimea. Just you make things even worse. But I'm not sure what it's all about because there's no way he can restore Soviet Union. But they robbing Russia blind or bare. All the oligarchs and Putin that covers them up. So I'm not sure, but it's war. I mean, unfortunately, Ukraine wasn't admitting the same thing. They call it like a terrorist operation going down. So, but it's definitely military involved. from Russian side, because I will never believe that the coal miner or factory worker can just hop in the tank and start driving the tank and fighting the regular military. It's just not possible, and especially operating like this anti uh, air missile systems. I mean, it's professionals who work in that stuff, people who spend years drilling and learning. You can't just come out of a coal mine and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna shoot down the airplane. So yeah, unfortunately, the events. It was a. I don't think we had so much tensions during the Soviet period because I have a lot of Russian friends, like kids of the military personnel who lived in Kiev. We had no problems. It just started after Crimea. Then Russian propaganda really started pushing the agenda that Ukrainians are just really bad people, pretty much. Uh, okay, what was your favorite Soviet revolutionary? I don't really have a favorite one. I'm kind of interested in Trotsky because he's the guy who actually predicted the collapse of Soviet Union because the Soviet bureaucracy uh, will betray the country and betray the socialism. And he had actually a book called Revolution Betrayed. So I'm kind of interested in him, but I don't say I have like a favorite revolutionaries because most of them did really horrible things for the great ideas. So. What did people think about conflict with China in the USSR? I read that many people were generally spooked and took propaganda about Chinese threat seriously. Well, if you're talking about 50s, I think, and 60s, Daman Island conflict, I guess again, it was all hush hush, only rumors. There was nothing in official newspapers, and we actually had a lot of jokes, anecdotes on this topic because newspapers will say something, but it's like you can only guess what they're trying to say. So we had a lot of jokes like, "Hey, Soviet combine was harvesting wheat by the Chinese border, and when suddenly, they got shot at from the Chinese side, so our combine had to stop harvesting, turned and responded with several missile shots at the Chinese and continued harvesting." So jokes like that, where we got report that uh, our border patrols got attacked by Chinese, and as a result, we right now took over defense positions in Ganzhou province. So it's kind of this humor that uh, you know nothing going on, and but something going on. Of course, next time we're warning Chinese, if next time we will get attacked, we're going to use our tractors with vertical takeoff capabilities and missile strikes and stuff like that. But we definitely never had really good information about that conflict. I have a Kharkiv electric shaving machine. It's from '87, something like that. I got some actually, I brought some too for the souvenir and some paperwork. Those are pretty cool. But apparently, there were copies of some, I think, German shavers. But yeah, they got. Next question. I'm not sure use value, how much Marxist theory did teach you. Well, I didn't go really deep into it. I mean, there was some classes, I think, in the ninth and the 10th grade about the whole theory, but nothing really in depth. I think people who went more into like political education, they've got to learn about that stuff. But I'm not sure, like, if I know what is on Russian use value, I might can explain it. But some terms that get translated to English, I don't understand them. All right, keep on going. Did you get the sense that the average American is kind of simplistic or naive views about politics? Well, it depends what kind of politics. They're really hardcore about the local politics. I just kind of was surprised to find out that most Americans really don't care what's going on about outside the country, like, or have no idea what's going on, or don't care, or both. You know, like everybody knows about Benghazi just because like no one knew even that probably Libyans existed till this Benghazi thing came up. Now everyone knows the name Benghazi. So as long as the mass media won't produce it, like I notice like most people super weak in geography. Like I played these games way back, was on Facebook, that you kind of like, they tell you name of towns or countries that you're trying to drop the dart where you think is located, and I was kicking ass. Like Americans was like, how do you know where this country located? I was like, well, did you study geography in school? So that was a kind of thing. And like in newspapers, like local newspapers are killing me. There's not a single word about any events that are going on overseas. So there's really like compartments. Yeah. So most people really don't care about what's going on outside the country, although America plays huge role in the whole world politics. So kind of strange. All right, keep on going. You mean electric shaver? However, yeah, mine was actually, I used one when I was back in Ukraine. Mine was black, but the older one my dad used, and I think that's the one I brought, but it's somewhere in the storage. It's kind of this cool 60 shape. It's red and white. It's really neat looking shaver. And I think it's Kharkiv. I think it's the one was most popular. What were the attitudes towards black people in the USSR? I'm a black man. I went to Ukraine. My family was concerned. Most seemed indifferent, and few asked to take pictures with me. I wonder what year did you go? Um, Although we kind of like always promoted international relations and friendship with all people in all the world, I think most people are very racist in Soviet Union. And what started happening, we had people from Africa come to study in the colleges in Moscow and Kiev, and it was okay, but they had, like, because everyone was pretty much poor in Soviet Union, so even if you come from Africa with dollars, you kind of rich. And when the Africans started dating Ukrainian girls, that's when the problem started. Like if you see a black person with the white girl, you definitely will get attitude from people. At least, people will stop you and tell you, what are you, whore, and stuff like that. And then kids, if they have kids together, they had hard time in school too. So that was a super disappointing to find out. Although we all been promoting, like, yeah, we're the most, internationally, we're for poor people all over the world. But when it came, like, actually, Soviet people are quite racist, because Soviet Union, at least in the European side, it's a really extremely just white, and it's just all you have. I mean, we used to call people from Azerbaijan, Armenia, because they're dark haired Georgians, we called them blacks because they were dark people for us. So when you have real black people coming in, so there became a problem when they started dating white girls. That's when some people got butthurt. Oh, we got actually viewers even from Russia. Привет, с Podmoskovia. Hello, Nick. How was the attitude towards Stalin in post-Khrushchev USSR? Well, what I know from 70s, it's just kind of like, we know he was there, but it was really made it disappear. So I remember when the first time I found some old history book, and it was something talking about World War II and the Kursk battle, and it was the phrase saying, Comrade Stalin warned his generals that Germans going to attack in Kursk. And I'm reading, it's like, how you can write stuff like, how did Stalin know that Germans going to attack? Like, no one knew, but Comrade Stalin knew. Why he didn't know in June 1941 that Germans going to attack? So we kind of, I guess, by the time in Brezhnev 70s, we kind of got out of system that whole cult of Stalin. But some people quietly thought he was the genius of and stuff like that. But yeah, they definitely, well, they had to do something to think about it, because Stalin was a level of like communist god, and then he died, so the whole country is kind of like confused what we do now. So you gotta come up with a new god, or you kind of just like, okay, we gotta get rid of the system. So that's what Khrushchev did. Um, okay, so Crisis in Kremlin is a computer game. Okay, I need to look it up, because I usually don't play any computer games, but it's interesting to see. I thought it's like a table game, so called, like the one that I played some Kremlin, but that was so complicated that people gave up. How popular was marijuana in the USSR? I don't. Honestly, like I don't know anyone who smoked, but there were some talks about kanapля, which is what the heck is? It's the same family as marijuana, but it's less potent, and they actually make clothes of it. Trying to think a word. It's a kanapля in Russian, but in English, oh my goodness. Anyways, it looks like weed plant, but it's not. And some people supposedly were smoking it, but I don't think we had a lot of drug abuse during the Soviet Union. At least I didn't know about it. Did you play Tetris in the USSR? No, I didn't. Although I heard there was a. Well, I mean, we didn't. I didn't have a computer in Soviet Union. I only had the first computer when I came to the United States. So maybe people played, but I never did. You mean the Kremlin board game? Yeah, that's the one. That was really so complicated, and it's pretty funny but complicated. What will you do when you ask to join a political podcast? I never had anyone asking me to join any political podcast. I had somebody suggested I should start my own podcast, but I honestly I'm already barely have any spare time because I have to work full time. I mean, YouTube is a great fun and I enjoy doing it, and I'm glad that people find it useful. But realistically, it's just a hobby because with YouTube chopping my videos left and right, like I have close to 30 videos blocked for monetization out of eight, it's like about 70. So YouTube brings me $60 a month, plus some people who generously donate me on Patreon about $50 a month, and then I have some direct donations. So everything combined with generous viewers, subscribers, it's like maybe $150 a month. So I just cannot justify to spend a lot of time uh, doing this stuff. Although I have tons of information I'd like to share, but it is what it is. I mean, I cannot just quit my job because I would live in a carton box back at the farm. Unfortunately, it's just YouTube. I mean, I can try to offer T-shirts to buy or something else, but the way the monetization goes with YouTube is just ridiculous. It's just definitely killing. I mean, people, you got to have millions of subscribers and viewers to make decent money. So I mean, if I had time I could join, but not like running myself because I'm already really short on time and I need to work on my garden, but it's too hot today. So anyway, moving again. Talk about Soviet government. No, Soviet government, we can make a separate videos. I mean, I started talking about different Soviet leaders. uh, I have old rubber snow boots made in Yugoslavia. Yep. uh, they said I saw pianos and I saw furniture. I got another donation. Thank you for $2 from Krillin. Do you have a live schedule? I have too many questions. I plan to make live every time we hit another 1,000 subscribers. So right now we're celebrating 5,000. So next time when we hit 6,000, there'll be another live show. But you always can submit your questions, and I can try to make a separate videos and just answering your questions. Of course, if they kind of according to the topic of life in the Soviet Union. As I was repeating many times, I'm trying to go in a chronological sequence. So right now we're in 80s. So we work from my life in dorms when I was a little kid, and a little apartment in 80s. Now we moved to the new area. So we're gonna get later to 90s, but it's just I'm trying to cover it in a chronological thing. So, but thank you for your question. Thank you for your donation. Appreciate it. Hemp is what you're talking about. Thanks for your donation, Mr. Stripe 66506, and hemp. That's correct. Canapля. Apparently, if you smoke a lot of hemp, like a big joint, you can get same effect as marijuana. But I think there was a plant that people were growing to make clothing with it in Ukraine, and I remember people telling like when you harvest hemp, then you have to soak it in water, and they notice like if you do it in a little lake, the fish fall asleep and floats up, and they just harvest the fish. So they figure out there's some kind of chemicals that make fish go belly up. So okay, we kind of lost. All right, here we go. We come back to every time somebody drops a donation, it bumps the whole chat. So I apologize. And I think YouTube made the good changes. Now you could see after this video will be recorded, you could see also questions. Before that, it was not visible. Okay, so we answered weed question. Okay, podcast. How did the rations of people's deputies work? I'm not sure what you're talking about there. But if you work as people deputies, you got some perks, but I'm not sure about those. How much did the average Soviet citizen make? I would say salary was around 100 to 150 rubles a month, and a pair of Levi's jeans was 300 rubles. So you can guess. Some foods were subsidized by the government, so bread was really cheap, like milk was cheap, but usually that's not a lot of money. Like a car was about 9,000 rubles, and you make 150 rubles a month. So yeah, it was pretty expensive. The towns in the USSR had Communist Party organization. Oh yes, every town had its own party leader. Every region had another party leader. So yeah, that was a pretty vertical organizations. Then every factory had a party leader in that factory that had a cell of all the communists. So yeah, that was starting from factories up to the villages, up to towns, up to regions, up to the capitals. So yeah, that was all. I'm not sure how that worked, but it's how it was. All right. Talk about elections. Yeah, elections were a total joke. Always 100% approval rate, so you know it's always a joke. But we liked elections because they would sell some hard to purchase, find grocery items or other things right at the vote area. So you go to that whatever area dedicated for voting, and then let you purchase like salami or something else that or buckwheat super cheap. So they will have some goodies for you to come in and vote and buy it cheap. So that was our celebration. It'll be a day off. Of course, we have 100%. One candidate, and then they let you purchase something cheap. Did you think that USSR would have survived if they made the same economic reforms that China did? I don't think so. And it's like a climate wise, if you look at the USSR, most of it, like Russia, it's so up high. It's like Canada, really no one will build factories there. It's just too expensive to have a production. Um, and of course, China did their things looking at Russia, at Soviet Union. So they learned the lesson, and so they remained extremely, tight control on the power while letting people go and like work for themselves. So I don't call China socialist or communist. This is, I think, ridiculous because there's a private enterprises and they're not allowed under socialist system. There's no private means of production should exist under socialism. So China is just communist party ruled capitalism. They just by the name the communist. There's nothing communism left there. They're just trying to, um, become a world power under like it is like a hybrid planned capitalistic economy. They just tell this company, well, we don't care about your profit right now. We'll give you really cheap credits, but we need you to dominate this market. So go out there and undercut everyone, and then you run it at loss till you kill all the competition. Then you can raise prices. I think that's what main strategy of Chinese are. Um, all right. Income didn't matter as much as access to goods did. That's correct. I think this is what my main topic of my videos. People who like work at the stores, they were doing great because they had access to goods. Like if you butcher was making more money than engineer because he had access to meat that engineer didn't. All right, keep on going. Were there amusement parks or water parks? I'd say definitely no water parks. We had a small amusement parks, like we had one in Kiev, and I remember it's the first time I tried a roller coaster there. So they were pretty small and pretty expensive, so we never had these giant crowds. As I said, just to play this little, uh, like a video game machine, 15 kopecks, that was a lot of money. So if you say you make 100 rubles, so 20,000. So it's like $1.50 to play one little game for a short period of time. It's really expensive. If you have to choose, would you prefer a USSR reform similar to China or the current status quo? That's a tough one. Well, looking how it happened to people in Soviet Union, how they got poor, it sounds like China way is better, but then if you read news about China, people committing suicide, jumping out the factory windows from being overworked and not being paid overtime. I don't know, man. It's a tough one right there, but definitely, uh, I would say a little bit towards Chinese because, unfortunately, the people who destroyed Soviet Union, it's the people who used to be communist members during Soviet Union. It was nothing like new generation came in, like people young in their 30s, and they're like, oh yeah, we're just going to steal everything. That's the people who had a communist ticket by their heart. That's the ones that destroyed the Soviet Union and took all the natural resources and became oligarchs. They're all former communists. And as you know, in China, they constantly arrest and shoot people for corruption. So that's not much change there, except they go after some people. And so in Russia, when Putin came to power after Yeltsin, I was excited in the beginning because even I'm from Ukraine, I still kind of worry about the whole former Soviet Union. And he went after a couple oligarchs. I was like, oh, finally, is he gonna get you know back to normal? But he just picked a couple to show the example to the rest. Like, hey, you need to give me some money back, otherwise you're gonna end up in jail, just like Khodorkovsky did, because he left everybody else alone. And now we find out that now there's a symbiosis between government and oligarchs. They pay for stuff for the government. Like Mr. Peskov had a beautiful, expensive vacation on some fancy, most expensive sailboat in the world, and one of the oligarchs paid for it. So yeah, that's horrible. All right, moving on. What did your grandparents did for work back in the days? Well, they were peasants, so they work at the collective farm, but they didn't get paid. In till 70s, there was just you must work. It was pretty much like slavery. You must work at the collective farm if you want. And they give you some grain maybe, so there was no money exchange, and they check mark your work days. And they survived off their plot. They had to raise their own foods, crops. They had a pig and a cow, and of course whatever they could steal from collective farm, there's also was helping. So my grandparents never said anything bad, but they grew up under Stalin, so they knew better than say anything bad about government. And my grandpa really loved Brezhnev, maybe because he kind of life became better under Brezhnev. How did election work? Uh, that's a complicated question. I was a kid when that was all going on, but we elected like deputat. So that's guy representing goes all the way to Moscow. Then you elect your local leaders, but it always was one person. So like no one ever like studied the guy. Like, okay, let me see what the difference. Like there's one candidate, so there's no difference. So whatever government give us people to choose from, supposedly it's like they will go to the factory and it's like, hey, we need to have this guy. So they have a gathering and have like, oh, there's our candidate, and then he gets moved up. Like, but officially, some factory decided that this great, hardworking person should be a deputy in Moscow. So we offer him to go, and of course, it's always confirmation of Communist Party. Yeah, sure, go ahead. All right, moving along. What do you think of Putin? I think I just mentioned. I said I was excited when he came to power. Now I think he's destroying the Russia for his own profit. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of Putin at all and his policies. Uh, not everyone was a party member. There's a question about it. People uh, uh, had a choice, but if you want to move up to the ladder, like become some high-level manager, you must be a Communist Party. Oh, we got Six and Soldier join. Hello. Moving along. How was Ukraine under Nazi occupation? It's hard to say. They had their own currency even issued for Ukraine. Uh, our village was occupied, but besides some women had affair with Germans, I don't remember anyone complaining. They were like confiscating pigs and thing for food, but I think they were paying for it. So there was no like horrible things happen. So uh, no one really super complained. And I know like there was issues, and it was partisans were creating, so like a guerrillas were creating problems. Like Germans were warned, hey, if any of our soldiers will get killed, we'll kill 10 hostages. So they'll go in different region and they kill a German, and they Germans will kill locals, and locals get upset. So that was kind of like creating problems by guerrillas. But like I said, what I know, I didn't hear much bad things happening under German occupation. For some reason, Ukrainians were treated differently than Russians. So in Russia, that was way worse. But many Ukrainians, when they became prisoners of war, they were released and sent back to their villages. My grandpa escaped, but later I found out there was I don't know, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians were released by Germans, so they didn't see them as a problem. All right, moving along. How was Communist Party organized at lower levels? I said I never was a Communist Party member, so I'm not sure. But there is a word called yacheka, like a cell. So every factory have a cell, and that's what they like. Sometimes they must gather together and discuss some things, whatever going on in the factory. But I'm not sure. Are you concerned about Russian influence over U.S. politics? Um, I'm not sure how much was the influence. It's definitely, I could tell that everyone was super excited as Trump got elected in Russia. I mean, it was like ridiculously people happy, like government and mass media. They were like, yeah, America finally proved that there's a real democracy. Um, I think, and I was telling my Russian viewers, like, you guys have no idea how the system works in America. Even a Trump, like, really had, like, I don't say puppet, but maybe they have some compromat on him in Russia. Still, in America, president is not what president of Russia. He's powerful, but there's way more powerful forces and counterbalances that system. I mean, there comes to the point when even Republicans will give up on their president because right now they're just holding on him for their lives. But it comes to the point like, okay, we are part of this whole conspiracy thing, so we gotta, put our foot down and say we're not. But I enjoy watching this whole mess here because you know, when Clinton had a problem with Monica Lewinsky scandal, I thought it was ridiculous. Air all this dirty laundry, create this giant trouble and impeachment for affair. Okay, I mean, I don't approve that, but I don't know if you know that they spent more money on Lewinsky scandal investigation than they spent on the 9/11. So now watching how the Republicans fighting tooth and nail about against the Trump investigation is like, well, look a minute, there was a blowjob and you spend more money researching that topic than 9/11. Now there's a chance that Trump is actually in the hands of Putin, and you're like, no, 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 don't worry about it. It's like, there's this old saying like, hey, he's a son of the bitch, but he's our son of the bitch. This is exactly the situation when just because Trump called himself Republican, now Republicans jumping on that grenade instead of saying like, yeah, there's a problem. So I don't know about influence. Definitely, Russia was interested in Trump, and I think it's because they wanted to make sure that the Crimea remains with Russia, and America kind of let whole Ukraine issue go and don't get involved. So I think that's the main reason why they were afraid of Clinton, because Clinton is pretty hawkish. And I didn't vote for either. I voted for third party because I got extremely disappointment with Obama. I voted for him first time, and then I was like, nope. So I voted for Ron Paul. I wrote him in. So I'm kind of more libertarian with some democratic flavor. So yeah, I don't think there's really like Russian influence, but definitely they worked hard to help Trump to be elected. And this whole family, Trump family, they're just greedy, stupid bastards. For money, they will sell anything. It just that's what New York realtors are. So they just went doing this stuff without even thinking it's illegal, because it's only like, oh, I can make $1 million. Okay, sure. So that's just what I'm thinking about it. All right, moving along. We got some more people from Ukraine and Russia joining. Taras, hello, Taras. Do you think Soviet monuments and symbols should be preserved or dismantled? Love your content. Thank you. It depends. Like, for example, we had this huge monument came after October Revolution. I totally agree that had to go. That was just way too huge. There's another giant monument in Kiev. It's for the victory in World War II. I don't like that one either. I think that needs to go. It just all this the humongous deal. It's just stupid, and like they wanted to make sure it's taller than Statue of Liberty. But that other monument, there was a Lenin monument by Bessarabka Market. I didn't have a problem with that one because first of all, it's not that big and has some history behind it. I wouldn't destroy it. Maybe move it somewhere in some kind of park or whatever, because that was an interesting history and it was a small. Yeah. So I'm kind of not that hardcore about, oh yeah, we gotta just like erase it all. Like when Stalin died, like okay, now we gotta erase all that. Now this is like we're gonna erase all that, but it went overboard because every town in Kiev in Ukraine or Soviet Union had a Lenin Street, and Lenin monuments almost everywhere. So that was overkill, but I don't think it should be destroyed. Maybe relocated. All right, moving again. Alex Gonzalez got some heavy, hardcore questions about Communist Party. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with details how the Communist Party works since I never was a member of it. Do you think USSR could lasted longer if it had concentrated more on equality of life, housing, instead of space and military? Well, the chronicle problem with Soviet Union was the really low productivity. It's just the way it is. If people, if they don't be financially kind of like incentivized to work harder, they just don't. Most of us, it's just the way it is. It's not like Americans like to work hard. It's just you work more, you make more money, so you spend more money. In Russia, if you work hard, you make little. You work hardly, you make little. So why would I kill myself if I make the same? So if they would introduce something to increase productivity, and another thing, because labor was so cheap, it's a classic example when development kind of slows down because labor is so cheap, you don't introduce automatization. So a lot of things, if you look like famous Ural motorcycles, that's the copycats from 1930s BMWs, and they still manufacture them. Say, wait, it never changed. Like they're cool again because it's like a brand new vintage item. But because labor was so cheap, they never cared about upgrading equipment, and because there was always shortage of motorcycles, people would buy anything. So I don't know. The whole system was just not possible to compete against United States. But I think if they would just concentrate, for example, just on nuclear capacities to keep, America away and spend less on the military and other fields, um, then maybe they might last longer. But it was a question of time. It's just the whole system is not, my personal opinion, can't last. If you look at any country that tried, Cuba, North Korea, Soviet Union, if they stuck strictly to the socialist theories and economics, they failed. China managed to get off, although they still remain Communist Party at the leaders, they let it all go capitalistic, and then we see the results. So, okay. I was a tourist in Leningrad and Chernobyl I was a tourist in Leningrad when Chernobyl blew up, and we didn't get any information until we came to Viborg, where we could hear the Finnish radio. When did you hear about it in Kiev? Yeah, we learned it from radio stations, uh, which was always jammed. So the Radio Freedom, German Wave, they all were like warning Soviet people about staying indoors, not consuming fresh milk, not consuming any fresh goods. It was a huge delay when the Soviet government announced about it. Yeah, like Soviet failed big time about it. Because I played soccer outside on the worst day in Kiev, they can do it. That's why my shoes got all crapped up with the radioactive pollution, and then they only noticed that in Leningrad. I have a video about it. Come interesting, but yeah, it was bad. I have a video about my memories about Chernobyl. If you're interested, you can check it out. Public education here can barely teach kids how to read and cipher. Forget about anything more advanced. Yeah, I'm not impressed with American education. My daughter just finished high school, and when I was finishing, well, didn't call it high school, but high school, I had like 4 final exams, like hardcore math, physics, Russian language, chemistry, maybe. I don't remember, but like all May was just jacked up. It was so stressful. Here, they just like go to the beach, chilling. They're making some silly presentation. Oh, you need to make a project. What are you gonna do in the future? And they all pulling out of somewhere. I don't want to say where. Make this little presentation. I was like, oh my god, like you guys are so not prepared for future. How did the Soviet people develop their film and make photo prints after taking photos? When can the Soviet people buy their cameras? Ah, we did at home. We developed film at home, and we printed pictures in the bathrooms. I had my own dark room. And this is how actually I got a job in America first time. I put in my resume when I came on exchange program that I have my own dark room in the bathroom. So I had all equipment. So you buy a film and a camera in the store. Uh, we had shortage of cameras. I'm planning to tell the story about my camera later, but then you take photos, then you buy chemicals and you mix the chemicals, you develop your own film, dry it up, then you print your own pictures like what I did in the bathroom. It's only room in your apartment that can be dark enough because it had no windows. So you shut everything off, and then you have the red light, and you set up board. You have your printer, and yeah, it's a little stuffy, tiny bathroom. That's how we did our stuff. All right, I got several people helping me with hemp. Okay. Do you like the U.S. politics? What would you change? I don't say I like the politics. I mean, I definitely like there's more than one party, but it's not enough parties. I definitely think we need a third and a fourth party because right now, the way it's involved is pretty much Democrats and Republicans. It's the two sides of the same coin, and there's just one. There's somebody who tosses this coin, and everyone gets like, "Ooh, we got uh, what is that called, the size of the coin." But in reality, they all argue about stupid stuff, and then when the Pentagon comes and like, hey, I actually need a $500 billion, they're like, okay, $500 million, go ahead. Now let's go back for those parasites. Why are we paying these people money? Why do we pay farmers? Well, you pay farmers, so we're going to pay poor people in the ghettos. well, you should stop paying people in the ghettos, then you should stop paying farmers, and then Pentagon comes back like, hey, we're developing this new weapon. Oh yeah, sure, you want $12 billion? Sure, go ahead. So this is what pisses me off, because country inside definitely has a lot of problems, and it's kind of started me remind me more and more Soviet Union. The Soviet Union spent billions of dollars trying to influence the world while the country was collapsing. And so now we have a news, similar news in America. Then there's a bridge in Minnesota collapsed. There's a bridges somewhere in, I think, Louisiana or somewhere down south. Bunch of rural bridges. They announced they're unsafe to travel on. But we're building this brand new air carrier for $12 billion. Although United States has the biggest fleet in the world, like there's a countries that have a single air carrier. We have 12 right now, and we need more. So I'm afraid it's not going to end up well. All right, keep on going. You think Ukraine is better under capitalism? Well, it's not really capitalism in Ukraine. It's I don't know how to call it correctly, because there's the people who own the factories and they're former communists, and they stealing all the money and send to the offshores, and they create laws to protect themselves from competition. So it's really not a capitalism. So Ukraine is really bad right now, just like Russia. But fortunately, Russia got some natural resources they can sell, and Ukraine doesn't have anything. That's why they're having such troubles. All right. What was like when USSR got the first satellite in space? Did they celebrate like a moon landing? I believe so. I mean, I only see the pictures, but that was a really competition. That's the only competition between America and Soviet Union I kind of approve, is the space competition, because it's brought new technologies and new developments. It was peaceful competition, but yeah, of course, because we managed to stick it to United States, Soviet people were super happy about it. So yeah, our Sputnik, it's a big deal. That's why I took my nickname from my pen name for my book is Sputnikov, if you don't know, and it's my generally like my name I use for my productions of all YouTube. Is I'm Sergei Sputnikov. All right. Привет, my друг. Hello. We got some people from Europe. We answer about politics. Make retro USSR t-shirts. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but I said, unfortunately, I'm not sure if I have a demand for it, but there is a possibility of making some, because Soviet logos are pretty cool, I think, and if people interested. Приветствую, hello from Puerto Rico. Hey, thank you for your donation. We got even viewers from Puerto Rico donating some money. Thank you so much for your donation. All right, keep on moving. Were there the drug issues in USSR? Like, I didn't hear any issues personally, but of course, people who had money, apparently they had problems with drugs. Like, for example, Vladimir Vysotsky, our famous performer, he apparently had problems with drugs. But I never knew about it. But I guess, in the big cities among elites, you can always find something you can play with. And I think most of it was some medicines they could abuse. But as I said, drugs became problem later when the Soviet Union collapsed, and a bunch of people, like, because of a shortage of vodka, they were looking for something else to fog their brains, and then went into drugs. Almost half of the houses of friends and friends of friends of visit in Ukraine had a piano. How was it popular? I'm not sure. I think it was mostly probably visited intelligentsia, because like among my friends, and they all were like parents were workers. I don't remember seeing any pianos, but I think if the family is like, if family are teachers, engineers and stuff like that, is probably was part of their thing to have a piano. I don't remember any of my friends having a piano, honestly. What are Ukrainian opinion about European Union today? I Honestly, Europe is looking for additional markets for their goods, and they don't want any more competition. So, you know, you gotta find a fine balance between, because you're always gonna have Russia on your border, and you need to know that everyone has their own interests. So if they help in Ukraine against Russia, it's not because they like Ukrainians; it's because they don't like Russia. And of course, Europe depends a lot on the energy, like gas and oil from Russia, so they don't want to piss them off too bad. So Ukraine, for historically, was always between a rock and a hard place, grinding between Poland and Russia for hundreds of years. So it's just the way it is. Unfortunately, it's a great country but poor location. What was your favorite Soviet player when you grew up? I really didn't have any favorite Soviet hockey players because my team was Sokol Kiev from Ukraine, not from Moscow. So I didn't like really guys from Moscow. And most famous Soviet hockey players, they all were in Moscow. So I really didn't have any. I mean, Tretyak, probably the guy who was defending, goalkeeper, whatever you call it. I think Tretyak was like the most famous for all of us. Then Fetisov, now his name's coming up, but I won't say they were my favorite. Like I more like was for my team. All right, moving along. Look at America 2018 and New Russia 2018. What do you think? You made a mistake going to live in America? Oh, hell no. First of all, I'm not from Russia, I'm from Ukraine. And every time I go to Ukraine to visit my family, in about 2 weeks, I'm ready to go back home, back to Michigan. I like it better here. I like people. I like, I like to work hard and I like to be rewarded for it. And I know that there's no way I can reach my level of life if I remained in Ukraine. I'm just too honest to become rich in Ukraine. So I'm happy I moved. We got Rhonda from Germany. How's it going? Did you join military? No, I didn't. I went to college, and the people who go to college they don't go to military. And also, my eyesight was too poor to be in military. What was the healthcare in the USSR like? I actually have a video about it. So if you could check my channel, I have about 3 or 4 videos dedicated to healthcare in Soviet Union. Somebody from Nematod from Ukraine. Привет, hello. Привет. What was your experience on a trip to the USA? Actually, right now, working on a translating my book. I have a book right now. It's in Russian. So if you know how to read Russian, which you can because you're Sonichka. Maybe I have a book in Russian. It's called American Diaries, 1995, and it's all about my first time coming to America. You can buy it already, but it's only in Russian. Right now, I'm translating to English. I hope it will be ready by the end of this year, and you can purchase it in English. But it's all in details, my flight and my first experience coming to New York, coming to Michigan, coming to camp, and the rest of it. So I think it's turned out to be a really good book. So if you're interested, you can purchase already right now. It's on sputnikov.com. It's my website. Or you can send me a message. I have some books already in my apartment house here, and I can have a signed copy shipped to you. If you live in America, it's only $12. So anyone who'd like to purchase my book, but it's in Russian, it's only $12. Signed copy can be shipped in America. If you live overseas, shipping is more expensive, but for United States, it's only $12. All right. I don't think Russians would ever accept to be used as a slave labor material like Chinese. I would agree with you on that because I was reading a book called Alaska. I think author is Michner, and they already mentioned Chinese there. Like they couldn't get any local Indians to work in their salmon canning factories, but they got Chinese, and they were impressed how good they are. And it sounds like they're like ants. They just work like they don't need life. And the same with the building railroads in the United States. Chinese did a lot of it too because they're just hard worker. They're willing to work hard. So I think you're correct. I don't think Russians can ever work like Chinese. All right, moving along. What do you think about Germany? I was in Germany actually several times. I like the country. Uh, I found the people a little bit kind of stiff, like enclosed, but otherwise, what I saw, I was in Berlin, I was in Frankfurt am Main, I was in Essen. Generally, I like the country a lot. It's really neat, really clean, very safe. So yeah, I like Germany a lot, and I don't have any hard feelings. I said my grandpa was a prisoner of war in Germany, and actually he was okay. He almost died in a Soviet labor camp after being in Germany. So yeah, I got and I like German language except songs. I don't like when they sing in German. All right, moving along. Was it mandatory to join army? Yes, when you turn 18, you getting drafted. If you're not in college. So yes, everyone, all the males had to go to military except the ones that went to college, like higher education. We got Россия says, здравствуйте, Сергей, здравствуйте. I love your show. Hello from Orlando, Florida. Hello. Have you ever been discriminated against for being Soviet? You're talking about where in America? Actually, I enjoy being different here in the United States. I'm like the only Sergey at the factory, and I think I'm the only Sergey in the whole corporations. My car hat says Sergey KGB. And actually, it's convenient because if people start making fun of Russians, I'm telling them I'm not Russian, I'm Ukrainian. If they make fun of Ukrainians, I'm saying I'm not Ukrainian, I'm Soviet. So it depends on day of the week. I can be Ukrainian or Russian or Soviet. I was, let's see, sorry, comments jumped. And I'll need to finish in about 9 minutes. I was planning to do for an hour, but I already got an hour and a half. So thank you for joining, guys. I'll try to wrap it up. Uh, if you wait a little bit, I'll make this video public, and then you can place the questions that I didn't answer. We can try to answer it again. Was education harder or better than in USA? It definitely was harder. I think it was better. Like math, physics, all those subjects. Like I think it was way stronger. I don't like American education. Um, Here, it's more like on expressing yourself. There, we did a lot like the stuff that made you memorize. I still remember till now. Like I was really surprised that some of my colleagues they like don't remember basic math formulas, and they're like, "Well, I don't use it every day." I was like, "Dude, it got so drilled in my head when I was in school. I don't think I ever can forget about it." How can you don't remember that, if you have a triangle with the 90-degree angle, that it's a square plus b square equals c square. It's like this is forever. But here it just was so brief that people don't remember anything. All right. All right, somebody corrected me that I'm a libertarian socialist. um, could be, as I said, I'm not getting into details. It's just I know that life can be way much better if we have uh, less money in politics and and less government. That like the size of the government in the United States, it's growing so much that it's starting affecting the economy. I mean, now and that's not a good thing when somebody in the government says one word and the stocks collapse. The next day, he said, "No, I changed my mind," and it's horrible. All right, moving along. Somebody says a Soviet camera Zenit is really high tech. Well, mine was Kiev 19, and it was a great camera. It lasted me for years. Unfortunately, my brother sold it. I'm upset about it right now. I need to buy another one just for the memories. You do have a garden. Do you have a steam banya? No, I don't actually. I never liked those, so I don't have any sauna or steam banya. Hello from Greece. Hello. Starting to remind you more of Soviet Union. I'm shocked. Yeah, yeah. It's that's the scary part with it. Like, man, this is just not when the government tells you pretty much everything. It's ugly. Greetings from Austria. Hello. As an American from Ukraine, what do you think about situation in Donbass? Well, it's Russian occupation. There's no way the coal miners and factory workers can just find a bunch of weapons, tanks, and other crap and start fighting regular military. Even in Alabama, if you send U.S. troops there, they cannot resist for too long. But over there, so it's Russia creating trouble in Donbass to make Ukraine like give up on Crimea. That's my thinking about it. So in Ukraine, there's a new Nazis who hate Russians. I don't say they're Nazis. It's more like nationalists. They're not, but I wouldn't be say hating Russians. They should hate the Russian government. But unfortunately, a lot of Russians are so under influence of propaganda. But yeah, what's happening right now between Ukrainians and Russians is just shame because we're always quite friendly nations, but not anymore. But it's not Ukraine that went to Don region and just occupied Don because we have our Ukrainian Cossacks there historically. It's Russia who went to Crimea and Russia who went to Donbass. So it's hard to blame Ukrainians for not liking Russians. Do you feel bad about collapse of USSR? Not really. I mean, it's just historical event. Tree got rotten. It was just a question of time. I was lucky that I grew up in Soviet Union. I had a great childhood, but for adults, that was not a fun life. So I don't really feel bad about it. I just feel bad about results of collapses, how poor many people are. Just a fistful of people became mega rich, and the rest of the country collapsed into poverty. But all those are former communists, so it is what it is. What do you think about Transnistria? I think your question about that region that also became independent from Moldova. And that's your classical example. It's when Russia creates these areas for tension. As long as there's some Russian-speaking people, there's a trouble. It's really similar to what's going on in the Donbass region, but just Moldova gave up on reclaiming the territory. Have you ever heard of dry crocodile that eats your flesh? I heard something about it, but wouldn't be surprised. I mean, a lot of people are sniffing glue, mamient there to get high. So people over there, I mean, just life so miserable, they just do anything to make it fun. So I won't be surprised. Do you ever accidentally burned your roast and replaced it with a fast food? I'm not sure what there's a question about, honestly. All right, guys. Well, it's about time for me to wrap it up. Thank you for joining. I'm trying to catch up. I got most questions answered. There's an interesting comment says, "It seems a smart man, yet you seem to fail to realize here in the West and Europe are far more corrupt than present day in Russia." I don't think you can be any more corrupt than Russia at the present moment. But I agree, there's a lot of corruption going on in the USA. It's that's the bad part of bad money. Money create corruption, and absolute power create absolute corruption. And Putin has absolute power, so there is the absolute corruption. So I don't think anyone can beat Russia at that point. Most people in America, most people, not all of them, they earned money and became rich uh, because of their wits. And look at Google and other companies. But then you look at all the oligarchs in Soviet Union who just managed to take over illegally of some factory or coal mine or oils, and then became mega rich because they pay no taxes. All right. Well, questions are coming, but I need to say goodbye. Well, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll make this video available. As I said again, thank you so much, guys, for your support. And when we hit 6,000 subscribers, we'll see you again live. And I'm making next video about be religion in Soviet Union. So follow my channel. If you have that little bell pushed on your YouTube, it will send you notification that my new video come out. And I want to say goodbye and thank you so much. We'll see you later.